Hello, friends. My name is Leslie Galbraith. I'm a very proud member of the International Board of Directors, and I'm delighted to welcome Sweet Adelines from around the globe to Rocky Mountain Region 8. With its sweeping plains, its stunning desert architecture, and the very, very majestic Rocky Mountains. I'm a proud member of Region 8, and I promise you that harmony with altitude is the perfect theme. We know that you're going to enjoy your time and your tour of this 8-state region through our eyes. As we continue on our journey, please make sure to stay in touch with our website, the Travel in Tune website, or our mobile app. Enjoy your ride.
Howdy, everyone. Welcome to Rocky Mountain Region 8. I'm Annalisa Glad, and I'm excited to take you on a tour of this beautiful region with physical warm-ups through the 7 states of Region 8. So now I'm sure that you're sitting down right now, like I am, which is fine for the moment. But when it's time to get on up, I hope you scoot out that chair and get on up. Over the past year, I have created warm-up videos for our Zoom rehearsals for 2 reasons. One, to add fun to those Zoom rehearsals, but also to remind us of the importance of our physical energy in performing, and that we don't get out of the habit and lose that, because that's what we do as Sweet Adelines. We communicate our musical message through physicality. So I just wanted a way for us to just keep on going with that thought process. So my hopes for our time together today is to reinstill within you the importance of physical warm-ups in our organization. Now, they may not be as important in other chorale organizations that stand and sing, but that is not who we are and what we do. And I hope that when we come back together in person, that you'll be excited to get on that floor and do that physical warm-up when the time is called. My second objective is to show how to do an effective physical warm-up for all of the members of your chorus. Now, usually the person in front doing the warm-up is comfortable and happy to do it. They have an internal rhythm, they have a beat, and it's just something that they enjoy doing. But we need to understand that we have all different levels in our chorus of performing confidence and just physical capabilities and coordination. So I want to relate this to crocheting for a minute. My cute great grandma would come visit us every Christmas and try to teach me to crochet as a kid growing up, and I just didn't get it. I tried, I just didn't get it. My fingers did not move the way she told me to have them move. So I unfortunately gave up. Well, then I got married, and my mother-in-law, Laura Glad, who introduced me to Sweet Adelines, thank you, Mama, she tried to teach me how to crochet as well. Now I was older, I had a better mindset, and it was just so difficult. I don't understand why I didn't get it, because I feel like I'm a pretty coordinated person, but I didn't get it. And she just made it look so easy as she's whipped out blankets for all of her grandchildren, and she's just done amazing things with her knitting skills. So she was definitely born with those knitting skills. I was not. So some of us are born with physical coordination and others are not, and it might be more of a challenge to others. So those of us doing physical warm-ups just need to understand that what may be easy to us may not be easy to everyone. So we need to design a plan that brings joy to all our members and not start our evening with frustration. So there's 3 tips that I'd like to give for an effective physical warm-up. So first of all, find a warm-up that has a nice beat and stay to the beat of the music. Now here's something interesting. Usually music is written in phrases of an 8-beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4. So our moves are more in that 8 count. So if we change a move in the middle of that and we do it 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, and change on 5, 6, 7, 8, our body just doesn't naturally feel that when we're listening to the phrases of the music. So that's kind of a higher level skill and understanding, because we're still keeping the beat. But when you do your moves, you want to make sure that you're keeping it on the beat of what the music is trying to communicate. And also, tip number 2 is do not change your moves too often. because if you're changing too quickly, not everybody's brain can process at the speed that you can, and you may come up with this really fun routine to do, but if it is changing too quickly, then that can also bring on frustration. So you want to find moves and put some repetition in them so that people can feel comfortable. Also, a good tip is putting some of your choreography into the physical warm-up. I like to do this when I'm introducing choreography to my chorus. It's one time I had come up with something that was a little challenging, and I knew that I would meet it with some resistance. So I put it in the physical warm-up, and we did it over and over again. And by the end of the warm-up, everybody did it and had a lot of fun. So when it was time to introduce it in the song, I'm like, you guys got this. And I saw that you got it. So that is another little trick to put into your physical warm-up. Now, the third thing is to face your chorus when you're doing physical warm-ups, because they need to feed off of your energy and your fun. But if you are facing them, you need to remember that you're mirroring them. So you don't want to call off directions like right and left, unless you get really good at memorizing them backwards, which is what I had to do with all of those warm-up videos. So just remember, you can just call out to the side and you just have them watch what you do, but be very careful with calling out right and left directions, because you just need to remember that they are mirroring you. So just remember with physical warm-ups that those first 5 minutes need to set a tone for an exciting evening ahead as you feel comfortable moving in that beautiful skin that you are in. So now it's time for us to do a physical warm-up to prepare our bodies and our minds for the awesome education that you are going to get with vocal production and tuning as well. So it's time to push on that chair and get on up as we warm up through the 7 states of our region. Come on.
Come fly away,
Take those shoulders back
and follow the wind.
and elbow up.
Come meet the people and find a friend.
Inhale up.
Forever timeless,
Exhale.
Forever
And take it all the way
blessed.
down. Hang like a rag doll.
Sweet Wyoming,
Oh yeah. Let everything out.
forever west.
And roll it up one vertebrae
Sweet
at a time.
Wyoming,
shoulders
forever
back.
west.
Feels good. Stretch it out to beautiful Nebraska. Hold it. Stretching those legs, other side. And 2 counts each side. 1, 2, 1, 2. And swap it. Up. Hydraulics ready. And big hug. Exhale, open it up. Big hug. Exhale. You're ready, open for singing. And now here is lovely Montana and our non-sing. 3 knees. 1, 2, 3. Switch. 1, 2, 3. Now singles. 1, 1. Now go to doubles. And 1. And grapevine. Grapevine. And grapevine. And grapevine. Pivot turn. Pivot. And pivot. Cross, cross, out, out. Pivot. Pivot. Up. And shake. And out. And in. And march, march, march. Doubles. Doubles. We got this.
South Dakota.
Okay, that was as painful for me as it was for you, trust me. So find songs where you feel the beat.
Place like no other.
Remember, let everyone else feel the beat as well. And we're going to heel press forward. Heel press.
Wide open spaces, dreams come true.
4, 3. Now grapevine with the arm up. Grapevine. You can hear the music. Now around the body. Now double shoulder. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. You're going to take one hand up. Hand up. Hand up. You guys,
Dakota.
One hand up. Other hand up. Present, breathe.
South Dakota.
Now we're going to get our cardio going to the lovely Idaho. Feel the beat. Let that heart going. Now lift those knees high. Elbows to the knee. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now push it side to side. Punch, punch. Now take those in 4. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. Now 3 knees. 1, 2, 3, and stop. All right, now we're gonna look at the awesome scenery of Colorado. And this time, I'm gonna let you feel the beat of the music and let your body do what it wants to do rather than what you're told to do. This is often a good time to let the singers just express themselves and feel things within them for 16 counts. Here we go. 2, bring it back. Step touch. Now we're gonna cha-cha. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now side to side, take it cross and open. Cross and open. Cross and open. Cross and open. Step touch. I want to give a step touch to let people's brain comprehend what's going on. And now we're going to finish with my wonderful state of Utah. Starburst. Reach up, starburst. Reach up, starburst. One more time. And we're going to end with the Macarena and the smile. Shake, shake. Inhale, exhale. Well, it was a pleasure being your tour guide through the 7 states of Region 8. I hope you were able to catch the beauty that we get to experience on a daily basis. And the next time Internationals comes to Denver or Salt Lake City, you can experience what it's like to have harmony with an altitude. So thanks a lot for joining me today, and I hope that you have some takeaways on how to have successful physical warm-ups, but also understanding that physical warm-ups are an important part of who we are and what we do as Sweet Adelines. So I bid you a fond bon voyage as you continue your travel in tune through Region 8 with some excellent classes on vocal production and tuning. So you put those all together, the physicality, the resonance, and the tuning, and bam, you got some good barbershop. So this is Annalisa Glad, signing out.
Hi, and welcome to Region 8. My name is Vickie Maybury. I am the director of Skyline Chorus here in the Denver metro area. And I have with me a quartet called Last Call. And we are, for the next 15 minutes, going to teach you a tag and teach you some finer issues with regards to tuning. So I'm going to ask them, this is a tag from Clay Hines' arrangement, If Ever I Would Leave You. So we're going to start with them singing it all together. Then we're going to teach you each part. And then I'm going to teach you a couple of tuning things just to bring your awareness up. Okay, so take it away, Last Call. No, not in springtime or summer, winter or fall. Never would I leave you, no, not at all. No, never this. It's what we would call a climactic tag, would you not? So fun to sing. So what I'm going to do is start with the lead line first and have Becky, and then we'll add on. Okay, so Becky, please sing the lead for us.
Sure. The words are, oh no, not in springtime, summer, winter, or fall. No, never would I leave you. No, not at all. Thank you.
And by the way, they will have a copy of the tag.
Oh,
so
great.
to look
Okay.
at.
Oh no, not in springtime, summer, winter, or fall. No, never would I leave you. No, not at all. No, never at all.
Okay, so that's the lead line. And now I'm going to have the bass line sung. This is Laura.
No, no, not in springtime or summer, winter, or fall. Never would I leave you. No, not at all. At all.
Nice job. Okay, good. So let's hear the lead and the bass together. Please sing along at home and join us.
Oh no, not in springtime or summer, winter, or fall. No, never would I leave you. No, not at all. No, never at all.
Excellent. So as we teach the parts, I think it's really interesting. You can tell when the voices come together, they strengthen each other. And that's the power of barbershop, of singing four-part barbershop harmony. If we were all just soloists, we'd be totally fine. But what happens is when you sing harmony, especially barbershop, and you start to experience the resonance, you strengthen each other's voices. So just by creating unity and getting into each other's energy, it expands the sound. Now let's listen to the tenor line, and this is Lizzie.
No, no, never. Oh, that's the words.
No, not in.
No, not in springtime, summer, winter, or fall. Never would I leave. Not at
Nice. Let's hear all three parts together now from Oh No, Not in Springtime.
Oh no, not in springtime or summer, winter, or fall. No, never would I leave you. No, not at all. No, never at all.
Nice. Okay. And that sounds really cool. Except in barbershop, we know that there's something just missing. And I'll be darned if it isn't that incredible baritone part that fits in and just makes us all come together and line up and actually resonate our voices in a way that creates additional notes even on top of that. So let's listen to the baritone by herself first. This is Lily.
Okay, so the only way I can find my note is to hear the lead note, take it down an octave, and a full step up. So can I hear the lead note? No, not in springtime or summer, winter or fall. Never would I leave you, no, not at all.
Nice. Okay. So beautiful baritone part. Okay. And I'm especially close to baritones because that's the part I currently sing these days. And so we know that singing the baritone matters. So here we're going to put them all four together so that you can hear it. You can follow along with your music if you want.
No, not in springtime or summer, winter or fall. No, never would I leave you, no, not at all. No, never at all.
And there you can hear the ring. And so when they get to the very end, you can feel that. It's kind of a visceral feeling. And God knows we're all missing that from being virtual because we can't hear and feel the ring like we do actually live. Okay. So I'm going to take 1 second and I want each of you to think about this before I do a little bit of demonstration on tuning up. What's it like when you know the chord is ringing? What do you feel like? What do you hear? Okay. And I'll start with the lead.
I feel like it just all like it comes together. It feels like it just lines up. The sound just and it's ringing. You can feel it. I can feel it in my ear, like the ringing in my ear, and sometimes a little bit in my gut. You know, yeah.
Laura.
I don't know. I have a feeling when the chord isn't right. So I kind of feel I can definitely like feel the difference when it's exactly right. And so when it tunes up and matches, I get especially like goosebumpy when it's an octave, and then I can match in with somebody who's doing the tag and we hit it on the head.
Cool. All right. So Lizzie, what do you think?
I mean, I get goosebumps. I get chills when it's ringing, when it's happening, when the magic's happening. And it's easier. It's easier to sing. You can hold the notes for longer. There's something about the energy that comes together
Right.
when it's all matching up.
How about you, Lily?
Yeah, it's kind of like I feel sometimes if you hit it and it's not quite right at first, and when it does hit, it feels kind of like puzzle, like finally like walking perfectly, and then I feel it like deep in my chest when it actually hits it. It's like oof, and then it's there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they all talked about some sort of a physical or visceral reaction, which is what we miss being virtual. But in the meantime, we can live and recreate those moments in our head. And so that's part of what makes it so powerful. I'm going to show you just a couple of things about tuning. Really important, octaves need to line up when you line up your octaves and they're perfectly balanced, there will be more ring potential. So I'm going to have you listen just to the beginning. Becky, if you'll start them on O, and then let's just have Lizzie and Laura sing that first part.
No, not in springtime or summer, winter or fall.
Good. So you can hear right when they line up on those octaves. Okay. Now, what I would like you to do is when you hit those octaves this time, I don't want you to try to match. I want you to think individual about your notes there. Okay. Can you start them again there, Becky?
No, not in springtime or summer, winter or
Can you tell that that was different? Could you hear that it didn't quite line up as well. Okay. The vibration wasn't there. If you were here in this room, you could definitely feel it. It almost feels like the voices fight instead of joining. Okay. And making one. Okay. So the next thing that I want to point out is one additional thing is sometimes when we have the keynotes, it's really important, in particular in barbershop, whether or not, whether you are, no matter where you are in the chord, is to be aware of the key of the song. The key of this song is this tag that we're singing is in the key of B flat. And so there are a couple of places where the baritone actually takes over the keynote, and it actually is very important. It's on when, not ter, but it's when or. Okay. And then she also picks it on ver of the never. Okay. So I'm going to ask Becky and Lily to sing that. And then at the end, at all, you're going to hear a place where Becky takes over the key and then Lily's going to take over the key. And I want them to be very commanding about that when they take over the key. Okay.
Oh, no, not in springtime, summer, winter, or fall. No, never would I leave you, no, not at all. No, never.
So you can hear the exchange. You can hear where Becky went into, especially at the tag there, where she took over the B flat, and then Lily came in and took over the B flat. So it's really important. So what I'm going to have you listen to now is the three of them sing, because there actually is a bass takes over the keynote, lead takes the keynote twice, and then the baritone comes in and takes the keynote. And so what I'd like you to do is if you can demonstrate for me, each one of you being very strong about taking over the keynote when it's your turn.
Oh, no, not in springtime, or summer, winter, or fall. No, never would I leave you, no, not at all. No, never at all.
And then you can hear the tenor singing, whether she's singing or not, because they're actually bringing her in. Okay. And so what happened is then Laura came into the lower octave, the bass did, and connected here with Lily, and they locked up their chord. They locked up their octave, actually matching their vowel purely. Certainly there's a lot that goes into tuning and that sort of thing. I'd like you to be able to hear that without the engagement of them being conscious of being responsible for that. So let's do 4 parts. And I'm going to ask you not to take over the keynotes, just sing them normal, okay? Right at the tag. And you're going to feel that there's an energy missing, I believe.
Oh, no, not in springtime, or summer, winter, or fall. No, never would I leave you, no, not at all.
So I'm going to stop him right there. So talk to me about how does that feel different when you are not, when you're not taking your turn with the keynote.
Kind of felt like we were plotzing along at the end instead of
Bland.
giving more musical energy to it.
Instead of adding the energy and that sort of thing. It certainly didn't have the excitement and the build up to the ring of the last chord. Okay, so now let's go back and be very conscientious of those spots we talked about. Nice job on the octaves, okay? When they have that octave on springtime, you're on the third of the first 3 chords, so just be a little higher and lighter right in here. Yep, okay, cool.
Oh, no, not in springtime, or summer, winter, or fall. No, never would I leave you, no, not at all.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed learning the tag. We hope it brought a smile to your face. Just got a couple of little additional educational moments here in the Mile High City where we do it with lots of extra oxygen. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Bye.
I'm Julie Palagi. I'm the director of Greeley Harmonix Chorus. I'm a voice teacher and vocal coach, and I'm on the Region 8 faculty. For the next 15 or so minutes, we're going to talk about the 7 movable structures of the vocal tract and how, by gaining a better understanding of these structures move, we can use them to enhance our resonance and to continue to sing in a healthy manner. What is resonance? Well, physicists tell us that there are basically 2 kinds of resonance. There's forced resonance and acoustic resonance. So when we talk about forced resonance, think about stretching a guitar string between your fingers and having a friend pluck that. Yes, it's going to vibrate, but the sound is going to be very feeble. Now attach that string to the guitar and then pluck it. You're going to get a lot more sound because the string is forcing the box of the guitar to vibrate at the same natural frequency. And that's kind of what we mean by forced resonance. Now, does that happen in our voice? Well, kind of. When we think about chest resonance or head resonance, that is a type of forced resonance, but really it's more the singer's private resonance. And why is that? Because the sound doesn't really go anywhere. You may feel it very strongly. You may feel chest resonance or head resonance very strongly, but as a matter of fact, that has no impact on the listener's ear. What does is what we're going to talk about next, and that's acoustic resonance. Flutes, organ pipes, in fact, all piped instruments produce what's called acoustic resonance. So the voice does as well. So every piped musical instrument produces its own frequency depending on the shape and length of that particular pipe. Now the air molecules vibrate within that pipe, and when they come out, we're going to hear the resonance and the harmonics produced by that particular instrument. So the same thing happens in the voice. When we understand these 7 movable structures, we can actually enhance our own resonance. And oh, did you know that each vowel has its own natural acoustic resonance? That's right. So if we learn the resonance that each vowel likes, and we adjust or tune our resonators, our internal resonators, with those vowels, we can produce not only more resonance, but more harmonics or overtones. Before we move on to the internal structures of the vocal tract, let's take a look at something that's pretty important to the health of our vocal tract. We want to make sure that we maintain correct balance of the skull. So as you can see, and this might come as a surprise to some of you, half of the skull balances in front and half of the skull balances behind our spine. And if you've ever been asked to stand against a wall to find alignment, you may have a very different image of what the skull on balance really is. So this is important because it allows the muscles of our vocal tract to relax, and it allows the entire vocal tract to stay unencumbered. So here is how we make sure we have correct balance of the skull. Place your fingers at your ears and touch your shoulders with your thumbs. Now you want to make sure that you have a sense of a straight line between your ear and your shoulder. And some of you may feel a little bit of pull in the back of your neck because you may not be used to stretching those muscles and ligaments quite as much. But boy, this is really important to good singing. And in some respects, it doesn't matter what the rest of your body is doing. As long as this stays in alignment, you are going to have a very healthy structure for both your singing voice and your resonance. There's another way that you can also check the balance of the skull, and you can even do this while you're singing. So make a sideways figure 8 with the tip of your nose. Make it pretty big and do it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it's just barely visible, but you can feel it. And you can do this while you're singing. No, not the big one, the little tiny one that barely has movement. And if you do that several times throughout the evening at your rehearsals, you'll feel more alignment and more relaxation, not only in the neck, but also in your shoulders. So try that. This is a really nice image of the vocal tract. The part shaded in gray starts about at our vocal folds and comes up and out of our mouth and out of our nose. So let's talk about healthy movement for each of these 7 structures of the vocal tract. First of all, we want to make sure that our jaw is relaxed and stays relaxed. No clenching, no extra muscle tension. We also want to make sure our lips stay relaxed. Then we want to talk about the tongue, and the tongue needs to be nestled in the jaw and touching the bottom teeth all the way around. Now the blade of the tongue will move a lot when we're singing because that's one of the articulators. Your cheeks, we want to remain soft, without tension, and long. The soft palate for all styles of singing we want to have elevated. The pharyngeal or swallowing muscles, we want to be completely uninvolved when we sing. So we want to feel them relaxed, and they would be nestled in our neck vertebrae. And the larynx. The larynx, depending on the style, will be lower in some styles and not quite as low, but in a more neutral position for other styles, which generally will be how we sing in barbershop. And although it's not a part of the 7 structures of the vocal tract, the head balance at the atlanto-occipital, as we saw in the last slide, is really important. So you want to make sure that you're checking that alignment at the atlanto or atlas occipital frequently while you're singing. The first movable structure we're going to look at is the pharynx. Now the pharynx refers to both the muscles of the throat and the space of the throat. The pharyngeal constrictors are the muscles of the pharynx, and they're pretty significant. Their purpose is to help in swallowing. If you put your fingers here on either side of your hyoid bone and swallow, that's those muscles interacting. And they elevate the larynx, which is something we really don't want to have happen while we're singing. So that's why we say the pharyngeal muscles need to remain relaxed and nestled comfortably within our neck vertebrae. Now, the space of the throat, remember we talked about the tube or the piped instruments? This is our piped instrument, this pharyngeal space, and that's where our resonance occurs. So here then is a depiction of the space of the pharynx, our piped instrument. We have the laryngopharynx, which is that sort of greenish, and that's around our vocal folds and behind. We have the oral pharynx, which is the blue, and it's behind the mouth. We have the nasal pharynx, which is the purple, and it's behind the nose. We also have the oral cavity, our mouth, and the nasal cavity, our nose. There's one other structure that's part of our resonating cavity, our resonating chamber, and that's the pyriform sinus. And those are little spaces that are around our vocal folds that also enhance our resonance. The larynx can play a pretty significant role in our resonance. So by lowering the larynx in the correct way, we can actually have an added acoustical boost called the singer's format. Now that's more important to classical singers because it allows their voice to be carried over a full orchestra unamplified. That's pretty amazing. In our art form though, by at least understanding that lowering of the larynx can add additional resonance, That's an important thing to know. And also understand that if you are elevating the soft palate, you are also allowing the larynx to lower at the same time. So we do benefit by keeping that soft palate lifted, and we'll talk more about that shortly. To lower the larynx in the correct way, we want to make sure and use the muscles below the larynx. So the sternohyoid, the thyrohyoid, and the other two muscles listed. How do we do this? Well, the natural way to lower the larynx is actually a feeling that you get right before you yawn. So the pre-yawn or before the yawn. So if you put your fingers here, as I have done, and go to almost a yawn, don't go all the way, just a pre-yawn, you will have felt a natural or comfortable lowering of the larynx. The other product of that is you probably feel a little bit of widening of the larynx as well. Try that again. So that's a very healthy way to add to the structure. And when we're asked to open our throat to sing more fully, that's how you do it, the feeling of pre-yawn or before the yawn. So is there a way to gain this acoustical boost without lowering the larynx? Well, current research in belt techniques suggests there is, and they're finding something called the epiglottic sphincter comes into play with singers on Broadway and singers who use the belt technique. You can see from the picture above, the white is our vocal fold or vocal cord, and they've depicted or pointed out where the epiglottic fold is. Now, the true purpose of the AES is to close the trachea so we don't have food and liquids going into our lungs. We can experience the sensation of using the epiglottic sphincter by the feeling of just about swallowing. So if you put your fingers here and almost swallow, you feel a little lifting. You feel a little lifting. Now don't swallow all the way because we don't want to bring in these pharyngeal muscles. Remember, they're very strong and they can create a lot of havoc with our vocal tract. There's also another way that we can try incorporating the epiglottic sphincter, and that's by using the cackle. Let's try this, shall we? It goes, do it with me. Now let's do it one more time and see if we can maintain that sensation while singing. A very different sound perhaps for many of us, and that is the steelier sound that they talk about. Think Kristen Chenoweth. So try that if you're interested in applying more of the Broadway belt to your sound. It adds some clarity, it definitely had some steeliness, and I wonder if we're asked to produce a more forward tone, if that isn't what comes into play as well. Something to try. Well, of course, we're going to talk about the soft palate and why it's so important to keep it in a lifted position. So if the soft palate is lowered, there are three things generally that happen. First, air comes out our nose, and we are singing then with a nasal quality, not something we want when we sing in barbershop. Second, when the palate is lowered, we're actually losing some of the higher partials in our tone, some of the overtones, and it affects our clarity. And last, it's also very inefficient for breath control. You have air coming out your nose and your mouth, and you're using more air than you really need to produce a good tone. As you can see from this diagram, the muscles highlighted in green are the palate lifter muscles, and they're below the palate. No amount of eyebrow lifting or cheek lifting or mouth spreading is going to do anything to lift your soft palate. In case we need more convincing that the eyebrows don't lift the soft palate, here's a pretty good depiction of all the muscles involved. You notice that they're at the base of the skull behind the nose. They go through the superior pharyngeal constrictor, and they're inserted into the top of the uvular muscle. The lips aren't involved. The cheek pads aren't involved. And of course, our perpetually surprised eyebrows are not involved. So let's see if we can make better use of the expression available to us by being able to release our eyebrows and thinking that that lifts a soft palate. So we've talked about the structures in the laryngeal and pharyngeal area. Now let's talk about the muscles in the face that we use in singing. And some of those muscles we might want to learn how to relax while we're singing. I'm going to ask you the very first question, which is, do you know where your lips are? You can see from this picture, our lips are a pretty significant structure, not just that upon which we put lipstick or chapstick. They start under the nose, go all the way around the mouth, go through the crease in our chin, pretty big for our face. So what happens if we pull the lips tight? It can actually dampen resonance. A quick and easy way to determine if you are carrying tension in your lips while you're singing is just to lift the top lip away from your teeth, just like that. And if you're feeling that sensation or think you may be feeling that sensation, do that while you're singing a phrase or two and see if your lips are trying to pull either this way or stretch across your teeth. We want to make sure those are released. But don't we use our lips when we smile? Yes, we do. We want to make sure, however, that we are moving our lips in such a way that doesn't hamper or dampen our overtone structure. Now, as we talked about in the Broadway belt, they have also learned that a little spread while they're activating the epiglottic sphincter can also help, especially with the higher tones and keeping a pure vowel. So that is useful. We just want to make sure we don't go too far. The buccinator muscles can also have an impact on our resonance. As you can see, they're located right inside of the cheek. They connect to the lips in the front and the upper pharyngeal constrictor inside the cheekbone. Remember, those pharyngeal constrictors need to remain uninvolved when we're singing. Those are the swallowing muscles. When we sing with lips pulled wide, we're using the buccinator muscle. So when we're singing like this, we're constricting the oral pharynx, we're pulling up the base of the tongue, we're pulling up the larynx, and we're pulling down the soft palate. And we just talked about why it's so important to make sure that we sing with an elevated soft palate. So it's important to understand that we smile when we sing, but we don't stretch the buccinators too far. Less is more in this regard. Talking about the jaw is an important structure in singing. This is where I see a lot of tension in singers, both in my studio and on the risers. And it's something we want to be aware of because we can do some damage if we continually sing with our jaws tense. So here's the thing, the jaw is an appendage. It's not connected to the skull. It's hinged at the temporal mandibular joint, but it's not in a socket. There's meniscus, which is a spongy connective tissue, but there's no connection directly to the skull. And it meets at the temporal bone of the skull just underneath the cheekbone and in front of your ears. Now, natural movement of the jaw is that it swings back, down and back, down and back. It doesn't swing out, down and back. And so many times singers involve that jaw when they really don't need to. You can actually just allow gravity to open your jaw by relaxing the jaw lowering muscles and sing in that space. You don't often need, in fact, I don't know that you'd ever need. But, so try that. Just relax the jaw muscles and allow gravity to open your jaw. And if you've been carrying any tension up here, that is going to feel really good. As I mentioned, a lot of singers carry unnecessary tension in their jaw. So it's really important to learn how to relax the jaw while you're singing. And also understand that the muscles that lower the jaw are the digastric muscles. Those are the most important muscles for jaw lowering. So if we were to allow gravity to open our jaw and sing with that kind of lack of tension, what would that sound and feel like? Really good, and it would probably sound really good too. So here's something you can do to check if you're singing with any kind of jaw tension. My voice teacher, Dr. Juliana Hoke, is the one who encouraged me to do this, especially singing the higher notes when I was studying arias and classical music. So all you would do is gently, gently, gently rock the jaw back and forth. And if you can move it without jerking, that means your jaw muscles are relaxed. Kind of goes like this. Very relaxed. And the more that you can incorporate that relaxation in your singing, the more freedom you'll have in your vocal tract and the more resonance you'll gain. This is a great illustration of the tongue. It really shows how much of our vocal tract it can take up. So we want to make sure that we are leaving the tongue relaxed when it needs to be relaxed and only use the blade of the tongue for articulation. So what happens if we use the tongue, for instance, to lower the larynx? Well, we push down the tongue and it creates a throaty, unnatural sound, and it's not healthy. So what happens if we pull back the tongue because we think we're creating a more open throat? That, again, is not a healthy way to open the throat, and it creates a very muffled and overly dark sound to our audience, even though internally it might sound really full to us, and that's because our eustachian tubes are really close to our resonating structure. So just remember, the only healthy way to open the throat is to release the pharynx, the muscles of the throat, with that pre-yawn or before the yawn feeling. Look at all the information we've covered in a relatively short period of time. I have included my email, and feel free to contact me. I'll be happy to answer your questions as I can. Also, I've included the references that I've used in preparing this presentation. I hope you find it helpful. Farewell from Julie Palagi in Region 8, and I wish you all the best as you travel in tune.